Let us prepare in mind, body, and spirit for our service today. Today's reading comes from the Joyous Living Journal by Petra Wells and Christian Sorensen. Relationships offer one of the most profound and challenging ways to spiritually grow. Each relationship offers the opportunity to learn about yourself, another, and life. In relationships, you are confronted with all the ways that your past, your negative beliefs, and your subconscious patterns are still playing themselves out in your life. You get to see where you are unavailable to be unconditional love, where you harbor resentment and judgment, or when you actually withhold love. You get to practice living out of the spiritual truths and principles you believe. If you could go in for a moment with me into that silence. And right here, right now, in this most auspicious moment, this most wonderful moment of love, where love is and always is, I am knowing right here, right now, that we, our community, all of us, each and every one of us, in this time together, we are so blessed. I know that the divine within us uplifts and supports us, and all that needs to be truly heard and revealed is brought forth. I'm knowing that Reverend Cece is so deeply uplifted and supported, that voice within her, that voice of love, that voice of God speaks through her with such clarity, and it is profound. I'm knowing that our children are so uplifted, supported, and loved up in the back. I'm knowing that the music ministry flows on that river of love that moves in and through and out all things. I know that this is a time of blessing, a time of rejoicing, and a deeply intimate time of love. And I say, thank you. So be it. So it is.
So the reading says, relationships offer one of the most profound and challenging ways to spiritually grow. Can you say understatement? Being in relationship always involves spiritual growth, whether we want to or whether we like it or not. It just is part of the nature of things. And since we are all in relationship all the time, we're all in lots of relationships, we always have the perfect opportunity to challenge ourselves, to grow spiritually, to grow emotionally, to grow up into full spiritual adults. And it is a very profound and I would say very, very challenging journey. The reading continues. Each relationship offers the opportunity to learn more about yourself, another, and life. In relationships, you are confronted with all the ways that your past, your negative beliefs, your subconscious patterns are still playing themselves out in your life. Where you harbor resentment, where you withhold love. What's all this stuff about you? Isn't there another person involved in the relationship? Well, no, actually, there isn't. There isn't. First of all, in the mystical sense, there's really only one of us, right? There's really only one of us, and so there is no other person involved. There's only the play of consciousness, God in expression, God at play through the universe. That's the mystical side of it. In the more human, individualized sense, the other side of the coin of our lives, which is one side as mystical spiritual being and the other as human being down in the trenches. So in the trench side of things, we can each only experience life through and in our own minds. That's where we experience it, nowhere else. We experience everything within our own minds through the filters of our own consciousness. I read an interesting article in Scientific American magazine recently, and this beginning quote is from that article. It is a fact of neuroscience that everything we experience is a figment of our imagination. It is a fact of neuroscience that everything we experience is a figment of our imagination. That's pretty potent. That's pretty potent stuff. The sensations feel accurate and true, but they don't reproduce the physical quality or the physical reality with a small r of the outside world. I would say very often they don't reproduce the physical reality of the outside world. And this is simply a matter of the vehicle in which we live. We have 5 senses, and each one of those feeds input into our brain, and that neural machinery records and interprets the data that comes to it. But that same neural machinery is responsible for all of our delusions, our failures of memory, our illusions, our patterns of thinking, our prejudices, all of it. In other words, we have this small r reality and our imagination sharing the same physical resource in the brain. And of course we have the subconscious mind and the conscious mind also sharing the same resource in the brain. And so in the subconscious we have all of our memories of everything, all of our experiences, all of our conclusions, all of our translations, all of our beliefs, all of our prejudices, all of our old thought patterns, all of our stuff is there. It's all there. And so input comes in, and in the subconscious mind, where most of the work is done, input comes in, and the subconscious mind grabs it and immediately starts comparing and contrasting and assigning meaning and filling in gaps, and who knows how closely it resembles reality. A big part of it depends on where we are at that moment, emotionally and mentally, where we are at that moment. Every single piece of information that comes to us gets filtered through our preconceived ideas. And we assign the meaning to that piece of data, to all of it. We assign the meaning. What we're really in relationship is not another person, but the meaning we have assigned that other person in our lives. The meaning we assign to that other person's words and actions. It's not the other person at all. It's this picture of them that we've painted inside our own psyche. And it's a really interesting thing. It's the reason that eyewitness testimony in law is so unreliable. Because input comes into us when we input it, particularly around people, and we use things like their voice, their tone of voice, how high or low. Did you know that people with high voices are thought less honest than people with low voices? I'm not lying, I promise. No way! That's right. We hear their voice, we look at their dress, we look at their body language, we look at some of us their skin color, we look at our own wishful thinking, our own prejudices and prior beliefs. All of this happens in the current mental environment, which may be stressed out or tired or sick or wonderful. But the result of all of that is the meaning we assign to that person and our relationship with them in our lives. And normally we just accept all that stuff and we don't even know what's going on. We accept it and we accept the meaning we have assigned to it without realizing that much of it is the gas of our unconscious mind. Because the unconscious mind takes a stab at filling in the blanks and does the best it can. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it's not so good. And if we're tense or tired or lonely or hungry, the meaning will be different than if we're well rested, relaxed, and happy. Every single interaction in all of our relationships gives us the opportunity to ask ourselves, what meaning am I assigning here? What meaning am I assigning? Heavy on that self-responsibility piece of it, because we choose it and we assign it. And every single interaction gives us the opportunity to think about living out of our spiritual principles. The first one being, I'm responsible for my experience of life. And every single interaction gives us the opportunity to ask, why am I assigning this meaning? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from my old filters, my old preconceived ideas, my old thought patterns, or is it conscious? Am I trying to see clearly here? What is my mental state at the moment? Why am I assigning this meaning? In other words, am I really seeing it and perceiving it, or am I making it up for the most part? Or maybe I'm making up all of it. Who knows? It seems to me that when we're blaming someone else for our experience, the answer is clearly that we're making it up. Because when we blame somebody else, we're saying, you can make me feel this way. And no one can make us feel some way we don't want to feel. If we choose not to feel that way and step away from it and get ourselves maybe just breathing, we can choose a different way to feel in the moment. So if we're saying, this is your fault, you're making me feel this way, it's a pretty sure bet we're not in reality or close to reality. We're making it up. This is a very hard idea to accept and incorporate in our lives because we're trained to look for somebody to blame. I was trained that way, weren't you? You always look for somebody to blame for what's going on. And if it's, if it's not the guy next to me, it's the government or something. There's always somebody you can blame, right? Always somebody. At least there's somebody I can blame. I'm really good at this. So I can always find somebody. It's a very hard idea to actually incorporate in our day-to-day lives. But, for example, what if you're standing in line at the grocery store and the clerk is just agonizingly slow? They're stopping to look at every item. Wonder what that is. And they stop and have a little conversation with the person, look at it some more, finally scan it, and then walk a few feet over and put it in the bag. It's going to take all day, right? What's your mental state in that moment? And the answer doesn't really matter. The answer is, or the thing that matters is to acknowledge that it's your mental state. It's your mental state. You have no idea what might be happening with that checkout person. Maybe it's their first day and they're freaking out. Maybe they just lost a loved one or their dog, their dog that they've had for 20 years and they're upset. Maybe they are mentally different than you are, and they're not quite as quick on the draw. It could be their first day and they're just overwhelmed. All those kinds of things. You have no way of knowing the truth about that other person. The only thing you can know is what meaning you are assigning. You could choose a different meaning. You know, you could choose to take that moment to turn around and talk to the other people in line and see them and compliment them and be a person of love and increase right then and there. You could choose that. Sometimes I'm conscious enough to choose to take that time to just breathe and let my shoulders fall. But most of the time I'm not conscious, and I'm sitting there going, will this person hurry up? I've got places to go. Don't they know that? You know, you're with me? Come on, some of you do that too. I know. I'm not the only one.
Never.
So I want to tell you about Valentine's Day at my house, and don't worry, I'm not gonna give away everything, Mark. Valentine's Day at my house was an interesting day. We had a whole lot of stuff going on. Mark is working very hard right now trying to get his clients' reports generated into them, and they're all squawking. And I was working very hard trying to get out of town, and I had a hair appointment, and I had a 2-hour meeting, and I had grocery shopping, and I had to take care of my too many animals and all this kind of stuff. And then we had a dinner engagement with friends, and it was snowing like mad, which you may recall. And I won't go into all the details. I'll just tell you that I called Mark at one point and I indicated that the weather was terrible, because his office is downstairs and sometimes he's not quite as aware as I am of the weather. The weather was terrible, and I thought that at least one of the things on our list was just not going to be possible. He heard something different, and then he filled in the gaps, as did I, with and assigned a meaning that was not what I intended. And so I got home and he was furious with me. He was blaming me. And he told me the action he took, and I was furious with him, and I was blaming him. And I assigned a meaning and a conclusion to his anger and to his beliefs, and out of my own stuff, out of my own preconceived ideas and judgments and beliefs, instead of taking responsibility for my lack of clear communication and talking it out with him. So I was furious with him. He's blaming me, I'm blaming him. We go out to dinner and we sit as far away from each other as we can. We put everybody else in the table between us, right? We drive home in silence. We don't speak to each other for about 24 hours. And I sit down to write this talk entitled Relationship and Spiritual Practice. Good, huh? I went, oops. Wow, what spiritual principle do I want to be living out of right now? Ooh, not good. This is not good. I need to go and say, I'm sorry. I screwed up. Can we start over? And change the meaning I assign to the whole situation. Whew. Does my meaning and therefore my experience correspond to what I say I believe? In that moment, clearly not. Well, in that moment, I believed that it was his fault, actually. But this is not the spiritual principle I want to be living out of, right? Am I creating a meaning that defeats my sense of self-worth, my inner peace, my joy, my happiness, my love, my marriage? You know, what am I doing here? See, in every single transaction, every single interaction, in every single relationship, we always have the opportunity to bring the subconscious into our conscious mind a little bit, to see what we're doing and to make decisions consciously rather than from what bubbles up from the basement, so to speak. We have the opportunity to live from our spiritual principles, We have the opportunity to live from love, because love is, bottom line, the answer. And all the spiritual sages of all time have told us that. Whether you call it spirit or God or Allah or the universe, its fundamental nature is love. And because we're created by it and from it, our fundamental nature is love. So what we set out to do is uncover that in ourselves. And all of the spiritual sages remind us that love is the greatest power, the design and purpose of life itself. And so So when we catch ourselves behaving other than that, we have the opportunity to look and say, what am I doing? And how do I want to be in this moment? And do I want to look for the opportunity to become more loving? To really practice here what I say I believe. To wake up and to realize the truth about this relationship. It is the perfect opportunity for me to grow. It is, all the time. Perfect opportunity for me to become more loving in this moment. Childre, I don't even know how you say his name. He wrote Heart Math. He said, love is not automatic. It takes conscious practice and awareness, just like playing golf or piano. However, you have ample opportunities to practice. Everyone you meet can be your practice session. Everyone is an opportunity for us to practice love. Everyone is the opportunity. It gives us the opportunity to be more conscious. Every interaction gives us the opportunity to really ask ourselves, are we assigning a meaning from love or from garbage? Garbage in, garbage out, right? Are we assigning a meaning from love? And when we just let the heart be our guide, that place of love, we begin to see more clearly which direction to go in so that we stop defeating ourselves with our assignment of meaning. Because if what we do is assign a meaning that takes us from a place of joy to a place of anger, from a place of happiness to a place of beating ourselves up, we kind of off the path a little bit, you know? So we can always ask ourselves, which way should I go to stop this self-defeating pattern? We can begin to see our old judgments and prejudice and anger in action. We can start to see our old patterns born out and see how they affect us. We begin to see how we can bring the awareness of the truth of ourselves to bear on our relationships. And the truth of ourselves is that we are God's love. We're the place it shows up. It's the way it can show up in this world. And so do we want to be love today, or do we want to ignore the fact that our purpose and place in the universe is to be the love of God made manifest? That's our choice. When we assign that meaning to ourselves, I'm the place God's love shows up, then we start to assign it to others. And when we assign it to others, we are truly and automatically living out of our spiritual principles. I am the place God's love shows up, and you are a reflection of me, and I am a reflection of you. Therefore, when I look into your eyes, I see the place God's love shows up. And when we start to do that, we have really truly become love, which is what we're here to do. And so I invite you into this glorious practice of relationship and looking for the opportunity to open your heart, to bring love to the situation, to take responsibility for the meaning you have assigned, and to let all of that bring you closer and closer and closer to that state of being love. And right now I invite you to go within with me as we pray together. And the way that we pray here is not to ask or plead, but simply to state what we know to be the truth. And in this moment, I know the truth is we are all the place God shows up in this universe, on this planet, in this moment. The Creator that made everything out of its own being and spread itself through all creation, which means it's in you and it's in me and it's in everything and everyone. And so right now, I know that each one of us acknowledges that truth of ourselves in a bigger way, remembers that where we are is the divine, that the ground we walk on is holy ground, and that the actions that we do are the actions of spirit in relationship with spirit. And as we work from that awareness, I know that each one of us slowly lets go of the old ways of being the old ways of thinking, the old ways that are holding us back in any way, so that we are more capable and more able to be the place love shows up in this world, to be the place Spirit shows up without condition, with only love. And I simply know this is the truth of who we are as individuals and as a community. We show up together in love so that our individual lights and our communal light simply shines brighter and brighter and brighter, allowing others to see the truth of themselves by reflection, that they too are the place God is manifested right here and right now. Because I know this is who we are and what we're about, I give thanks. My only response can be, thank you. And from this place of gratitude, I remember also that it is that same power and presence that created everything and manifests by means of me and you. It is that power and presence that makes everything so. So I release these words into that presence, knowing that it's already so. It's already done. And so we acknowledge it and anchor it by saying together, and so it is.
And let's sing together. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to know that your love is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your love is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Nice to feel that connection, isn't it? So now we have an opportunity to become conscious in a different way by sharing with the center, in support of the center. And I invite you to take a moment to just become conscious of all the abundance in your life. The places it shows up can be so surprising, but it's always showing up for us when we're conscious of it. I invite you to take out what you're going to give to the center today, or if you give by automatic withdrawal or PayPal, to bring it into your mind. And just be grateful that you have to give from. And if you don't have the abundance in your life right now, visualize yourself having it and giving from that abundance, because gratitude is the attitude of welcome. And so as we become grateful, we welcome more good into our lives. We make welcome the continued blessings that we want to receive. And so be proud of giving your gift. Be proud as you visualize yourself giving your gift. And as I say, if you don't have the abundance, just visualize yourself giving and bless the basket as it goes by. Bless this center and its work with your energy, please. That would be wonderful. Bless the abundance of this community. And please repeat after me. Gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance.
Gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance.
I know that as I give, so do I receive. abundantly. I am grateful.